beautifuls. So I wanted to talk a little bit about color theory, the color wheel, and how we perceive color in order to help our clients a little bit better. So each client and each hairstylist and everybody in between all sees color slightly differently. So the light spectrum reflects back to us in different colors, and our eyes perceive it differently depending on how our eyes work. If you have glasses, well, you might see it a little bit differently than someone who doesn't have glasses. If you have blue eyes, you might see it differently than green eyes. There's no science behind it. We just all see color differently. And by science behind it, it's no science that I am aware of. So when you are working with a client and someone comes in and has very golden hair, and by golden I mean it has a lot of yellow, and they say their hair is very brassy, it is probably because they either don't think it's warm, which again is the yellow spectrum, or they think there's a lot of orange in their hair. So that is a conversation when you're talking to your client, how they perceive their own hair versus what you perceive it as and what you need to do in order to correct it to make them happy. So if you have a lot of yellow in the hair, you want to mix it with something that is purple. The reason being, it's the opposite on the color wheel. So the wheel is round for a reason, because everything that is across from each other, regardless of which direction you go in, and I got this very complicated color wheel for that reason, whatever color is across from it, so whatever meets it in this little point and is directly across from it, that's what's going to cancel it. So for instance, if you have a lot of red in the hair and you want to get rid of it, you gotta make green, which means you have to mix yellow and you have to mix blue in order to make green. So you're going to be mixing a gold and you're going to mix an ash, because those are the two colors that are going to make that green undertone for you in order to cancel it out. So when you look at the color wheel, which every hairstylist should have a cheat sheet of, I think so at least, when you look at the color wheel, you kind of have to assume what makes up this undertone that I want to get rid of. Most times, it is the warm side. So everything from this yellow dude here all the way across to this pinky tone is considered warm. Blues to purples and greens are considered cool. So when we go from doing a warm golden blonde and they want a platinum that is very ashy, which tends to be those gray tones, we need to make sure that we cancel out all of that copper and all of that yellow that possibly is coming up in the hair. So we need to use blue tones and we need to use purple tones. So when we are looking at the color world, we have a lot of different terms for those colors. So yellow is considered golden, orange is considered a brass or a copper, red is red, purple is considered more violet tones, and normally that's in the sense that you're going to be canceling it out, not so much be putting it in the hair unless you are doing a creative colors, which I will talk about in a little bit. And then you have your blues, which are your ash tones, and then you have your greens, which you're going to make if you need to cancel out something like red by mixing both a golden and an ash. So by mixing multiple tones in order to cancel each other out, you're going to create a neutral tone, which is going to be some kind of light blonde to a deep brown, depending on what you mix and what base you are working with. If you're working with a level 9 that still has quite a bit of gold in it, well, you're going to have to put a level 9 purple on it, and it's not going to be platinum. Because the only way you're going to get to platinum is if it's at a level 10 and you cancel that tiny, tiny, tiny bit of yellow that might still possibly be left, and you add a little bit of ash in order to get it more of that platinum color that most people perceive as mostly being white. So that is the little reason behind working with that. Now, when you work with different undertones in different hair types, you're going to have to look at the level as well. And the level being level 1 to level 10. 1 being black, 5 being a medium deep brown, and then level 10 being the lightest blonde. If your line goes for an 11, which is platinum / white, then that's what you look at. But 9 times out of 10, you're not getting there without destroying the hair. So we're going to look at levels 1 to level 10. So as our hair is lightened, because our hair is made up of multiple amounts of yellow, red, and blue being the 3 primary colors to make up that brown or black, whichever you're looking at, as you lighten it, you're going to go through, sorry, this is awkward going backwards, you're going to go through these different stages all the way to that really pale yellow. So you're going to hit your reds, you're going to hit your oranges, you're going to hit your banana yellow, and then eventually you get the inside banana yellow, which is normally around a level 10, and then you're pretty much done unless you want to fry the hair and make it white. Now, when you're going through those phases, you're going through levels 1 to 10. Now, depending on how much is left in the hair depends on how far you have lightened. Now, a level 7 tends to be your mix between oranges and yellows. So if you're still around a level 7 for how blonde you are, you're going to need to use both that blue and that green to make it a very, very nice, subtle, deep blonde. If you're still within that 4 to 6 range, you're still going to have a lot of red and a lot of copper, so you're going to need to use the blues and the greens. Now, depending on what level you're at, depends on which one of those is the primary color. If you're closer to a level 4, you're going to have a lot of red, just as you would, it would be a crap ton of red when you get to the black stage, and it's a little bit harder to get past that one. But when you're working with it, you're going through a lot of this red tone first, the copper, which is really stubborn, and then you get to that yellow, which is over here. So as you're working through that, if you're working on someone that is very white and they have a lot of gray hair, you have to substitute in those undertones to make that color stand out and be the color they want it to be. If you put just a straight up natural brown on their head, so say a natural 5N or natural 5.0, either one it's a natural 5, you're going to be putting a crap ton of red and a crap ton of orange on their head, and it's going to pull very golden and very red and very orange because you don't have enough of the other tones in it in order to neutralize them. So if you're doing a natural tone and your brand tends to pull very warm, you need to add some of that ash in and some of that gold in and mix the two together to cancel out and make that green, so that red is not what's standing out and your client isn't coming back complaining their hair is too red when they just want a natural brown, which is a very common one. So for instance, if you're putting a 5.0 or a 5N on their hair, you need to either add a little bit of 6.1 or a 6 ash or a 5.1 or a 5 ash. Whichever one you choose, it just depends on how dark that client wants their hair. Keep in mind, if they've got white hair, you gotta go a shade darker than what they actually want because you need all of that pigment in order to cover the white hair. Now, the other thing to look at, for instance, if you are doing similar to myself, who does fun, punky fashion colors, this still takes into big consideration because the palette you are working with after you lighten depends on what color your hair is going to come out when you put one of these multiple colors on your head. So again, if you take yourself to a level 9 and you're still very, very golden and you do not tone and you have a lot of that yellow color, excuse my hand again, a lot of that yellow color still pulling through and you want to put, say, a purple on, well, guess what? It's going to look a little funny because the two of them have mixed. I'm sorry, that's completely wrong because they are opposite on the color wheel. So you see what I mean? You have to use the colors that are canceling each other out first in order to get the true color and the true density that you want. So if I'm sticking a purple on a yellow, and I don't want it to look funny, I want it to come out the full pigment of that purple, I either need to make it a very deep purple, or I need to neutralize that yellow first. If I put a purple on an orange, it's going to look real funny because it's going to pull more red or more pink than purple due to the fact that it's going to pull all of that blue out of that color. If you want to put a red on a yellow, so if we're still looking at that level 9 and you still have a lot of yellow and you haven't canceled it out and you want to put a red on it, it's going to take fully well because those are supporting colors for that hair color, right? You need that yellow and that orange to support that red so that it doesn't wash out quite as quickly. But say you want to put a blue on there, well, you've got yellow still in your hair. Now you're going to make green. Because what does blue and what does yellow mix together? It makes green. So looking at this little guy is very, very important if you are not 100% sure what you need to do to make that hair color come out the right color. If you're working with naturals and you're working with browns, or you're working with blondes, you need to cancel out the undertones that client doesn't want. If you're working with funky color and you want to put on a color that's super, super vibrant, but there's undertones that are still going to make it look a little bit funny, well, be prepared for it to come out a little bit funny. Because, for instance, if you still have a lot of yellow in your hair and a lot of red in your hair and you put it on there, it might turn out red, but it might also turn out pink. If you put a lot of pink on top of orange, it's going to turn out a little bit funny because they don't really work together, but they also have a little bit of the undertones you need to cancel each other out. So that's the little bit of training you guys might want to reconsider. Definitely know your color wheel, and if you're not 100% on it, keep one on the back bar, on the color bar, inside a cabinet, on your phone, whichever you can in order to double check it. But also keep in mind that if you are doing fun colors like myself, I have purple and green in my hair, but it doesn't show very well. And I did have a very yellow base because I was a level 9 and I did stay on the golden side. I know that the two colors I'm putting in, there's enough pigment to cover that up, or it's complementary. So the two of them are next to each other this way on the color wheel. So if you have yellow, your complementaries, to not cancel them out, are your greens and your oranges, right? Same with your red. Your red complementary colors that go really well together are your reds, oranges, and purples. Same with blue, blue, purple, and green. Now, if you want your complementary colors that stand out, those are the ones that go across the wheel from each other. So your red and the green similar to Christmas, your orange and your purple similar to Easter, and whatever other holiday you may want. For instance, orange, which is on this side, is very similar with black, which is a lot of blue base mixed with all of the other colors on the color wheel. So if you guys ever have a question about the color wheel, look at your color wheel first. Ask yourself, what do I start with and what do I want to end with? And how is that going to interact with what I already have? Okay? Now, if you guys do have questions about the color wheel and you guys want me to do an explanation for other things, please let me know down below. If not, I will link the Google image that I used for this video. I do keep one of these in my own color bar for the days I have a brain fart and don't know if it's going to work the way I want it to. But if you guys do have any other questions or want more clarification on the color wheel, let me know down below. If you guys want a easy and a bit of a practice, take your undertones take your swatches, your little hair color swatches that the company normally will give you when you have color, and get a color wheel and start placing them where they have more of the undertones. So if your swatch looks like it has a lot more yellow because it's a gold, well, you know it's going to be on the yellow side. So place it there and get used to having the colors, the underlining pigments, to recognize them when you're working on the hair. This was something that I saw from another stylist on Instagram, and I can't at the moment appreciate it very much because I can't remember the name, but I will again post that down below, and hopefully you guys find this video helpful, and if you have any more questions, please let me know down below.